Welcome back, everyone, to the Horror Shed Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jared, and under here we have South Jersey Jason Bryan. How you doing today, sir?
I'm doing good. It's 1 week till Christmas. I got my Christmas story mug. I got hot cocoa in here.
Hot
It's
cocoa. I should have
it's
went
ch-
with the hot cocoa.
it is chilly tonight, and I think it's going down to the 20s in a couple of days.
Damn, son.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm good with that. We ain't got no 20s coming, so that's nice.
We have snow in our forecast next week, starting gosh, I think like Monday, Tuesday, but definitely Thursday and Friday.
Maybe
So
you
we're
get a
gonna,
little white Christmas, huh?
yeah, when I think of snow, I think of the classic Better Off Dead. This mountain, it's pure snow. Do you have any idea the street value of this thing? I can't feel my arm.
Oh,
uh,
that's hilarious.
classic John Cusack. So, yeah, it's Christmas. I can't believe the holidays are almost here, but you know what? It makes you happy because it's 1 month closer to home season for next year.
That's right. Let's get this Christmas bullshit over. I was just writing down all the gifts I bought. I still have shopping to do, so I'm pissed.
Oh my gosh.
But
I
me,
thought,
me and
I
Terry
thought,
went in with a plan. We were like, listen, we're gonna wrap up everything we got. We got paid Friday. Let's knock it all out Saturday and just continue pushing.
and then Sunday you're going to Longwood Gardens.
Oh yeah. I don't know how I get talked into this shit.
Well, I guess, you're doing your husbandly duty by saying yes, dear.
Yeah, we're going with some pretty good friends, so
That's good.
I'll close drama the whole time. It'll be entertaining.
I have yet to go to Longwood, and I don't see myself ever going.
Yeah, I didn't either. Till I was told that's where we're going. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm going.
Yeah, yeah. So have you had a chance to watch any horror movies lately other than what we're reviewing tonight, or
Oh, what have I watched? I watched This Is the End, but that's not really a horror.
that's
Even
the one like where it's the end of the
yeah,
Gonna
where
be
the devil
Seth
has a
Rogen.
giant dong on him.
I watched it once and I don't even think I really paid attention to it.
It was funnier the second time.
Okay.
But I mean, it's not really. I didn't really watch a ton of horror. I was trying to watch a bunch of shit that would take up a lot of time since I was gone all
Hmm.
week.
Yeah.
So I watched Narcos again,
Okay.
and then I just watched a
You watched
couple.
Clerks 3.
I did watch Clerks 3.
Now, what was your thought on it? Like, was it, I mean, I know you enjoyed it.
Mhm.
Did you see, like, it to me, like, I love the first one because I could relate to it.
Yeah,
The second one, it was funny.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong, but it just didn't have the magic of the first one.
You're never gonna recapture.
No, the third one I felt was on par with part two, but he definitely ended the story of Randall and Dante.
Yep. Which was due. It allows him to move on to other projects, and you could tell how much his heart attack affected him.
Yeah, because that was basically his story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope we get a Mallrats. I mean, I don't know if how,
They've been working on Mallrats too for the
and I don't,
last 10 years.
and the fact that the mall is like almost extinct, I don't think they could really pull it off. Like, if a younger generation was to watch it, they'd be like, "What is this about?" Yeah,
Yeah, they're running into that area where they might not get it. They really might not.
yeah, yeah. I finished Wednesday.
Okay.
I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Nice. Very
I
nice.
loved how they did throw you red herrings as to who the monster or who the sister was, and the monster. I always had a feeling it was the normie. As far as who the sister was, my first gut instinct was Chris. Yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen the show, shame on you. It's been out for a month now. Christina Ricci.
Right.
But then halfway through, I'm like, maybe it's just the psychiatrist. You
I
know?
I've it all clicked when you found out, but I was like, you know what? That makes sense because she's kind of a big name to have such a small little fucking role in
Yeah,
this show.
yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. Definitely can't wait for the second season. And um, Jenna Ortega just killed it.
she did.
She did, yeah.
It made me
Um,
more excited about Scream because I hope she has a bigger piece in that Scream.
What'd you think of the Scream trailer? Now, I haven't gone back to watch it a second time yet.
Not enough to really tell. I mean, that's the point of a teaser. It's cool to see everyone back, and then there's also a couple other people back, and I don't know. People keep playing with the IMDb stuff, and
Yeah, yeah.
because now apparently the big mystery or conspiracy is Anna Joy Taylor's in it.
Now who is that? I am not
She's
familiar.
the girl from The Witch, and she was in
Oh, yeah, yeah.
a
Hey,
really
maybe
unique
we'll
looking girl. Yeah.
maybe we'll get hey, maybe we'll get Nev Campbell. Maybe that whole I quit thing was just a ploy to throw the fans off.
Could be.
Yeah. But damn it, I want Stu to come back. That's
Everybody
who I
wants
want.
Stu to come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Now, I did watch Christmas Bloody Christmas, and that, like, the guy who made that made this film called VFW, like same, like low budget. It was like a indie favorite, came out a couple of years ago, within the past 2 to 3 years. I have yet to see it, but I think you can find it like on Tubi, and people said it was fun for an independent film. This one, I went in with the expectation that it's going to be just stupid, and my expectations were right. Basically think of if you got Silent Night, Deadly Night meets the Terminator and put them together.
Okay.
Okay, you have a cybernetic Santa Claus, like he's like a display. I don't know if he was actually for sale or if he was just like at a toy store, but somehow he comes to life, and I don't even think they said how he comes to life, you know. But it's actually played by Abraham Ben Ruby, who, now for us old school people, he was the bully on Parker Lewis Can't Lose, which came back, I was like early 90s. That was sort of like a Ferris Bueller's type character. But then he got claim to fame later on. He was the orderly in ER for 10 seasons or whatever.
Okay.
But he's a fun actor, always does like side characters. Like he was like a villain in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. But I'm like, man, that, because you can't really tell who the actor is, but the eyes, I can never forget his eyes. And I looked it up, I'm like, oh, it's Abraham. The kills were great. He killed kids.
Oh,
Now, it wasn't on screen, but you got the splatter effect.
yeah.
Um, and then totally the end scene was a pure ripoff of the end scene in the original Terminator when they're in the factory, and it's like him just in robotic form going to Sarah Connor, you know?
Yeah.
So check it out like sometime next year. It's kind of slow paced, but definitely it was a fun film.
Very cool.
Unfortunately, I haven't gotten to see Violent Night, so I'll probably pick that up when it comes out on DVD. The Mean One was supposed to come out on streaming today, but because they put it in the theaters, they
Pushed it back.
said, yeah, so which kind of sucks, because I really wanted to see it, and I'm not going to go pay to go see it.
No. No. I don't pay for
Speaking of Mean
Christmas
One,
movies.
we talked briefly about Monster Mania and their triple announcement
The
today.
yeah, the double booking of the Terrifier crew. You got David Lee Thornton, Damien Leone, and the little
David
girl.
Howard Thornton.
David, yep,
Yeah, and
that
I
guy.
think her name's Amelia something. Yeah, they're going to monopolize on that. That's the hot thing right now. And I'm calling it now. I bet you for the next year or two, any horror movie that comes out is going to be the gore porn type horror,
Yeah.
because that's what Terrifier is. And Terrifier started out as this indie thing. Not a lot of people knew about it, but now that it got this theatrical release, you have a lot of newer fans, which I see a lot of these cosplayers who never cosplayed art before, but they're all about art now. And I'm like, you're only doing it because that's the hot thing. And I'm not knocking them. It's, they just never talked about Art the Clown before.
Yep.
I only know 2, 3 art cosplayers. but now it's like what I see on my Instagram feed. And I'm
Hmm.
like, you're just jumping on the
Jumping
bandwagon.
in the bandwagon. Not a favorite.
Mm-mm.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Man, I don't know. Cool, but they just had them. So I'm just like, there's millions of horror movies. Can't you? What? Whatever. I don't run it.
Also I want to give out a shout out
Oh, we
to
got shout outs.
yeah, Ron Gann. I think he actually commented on our very I think it was our very first episode, or maybe our second episode, but coming out Friday the 13th of January, he has, and you can get this on Amazon. I'm buying it directly from him because I'm getting it autographed by him and Bill Randolph, who played Jeff in Friday the 13th Part 2. It's called Sackhead, the definitive retrospective on Friday the 13th Part 2.
Hmm,
So it's a 300-page book. Ron is like the walking encyclopedia of all Friday the 13th Part 2.
okay.
Um, that's his favorite movie. He's got a killer part two cosplay. I believe I talked about him earlier. He had made like the Camp Crystal Lake diorama
Yes.
coffee
Yes.
table.
Yes.
Yeah. So this book is going to be really good. Like if part two is your favorite, you definitely want to have this on your coffee table. I think it's retails for 18.99.
Not bad.
Not bad at all for a 300-page book, you know.
Yeah.
And Bill Randolph will have a forward in it. And myself, I know myself, along with some others, I don't know who the others are, will be mentioned in, I guess, maybe at the end as to why part two is like in your one of your favorites.
Making the
So,
literature rounds now. Look at you.
yeah, look at that. So, if you buy the book, I too can autograph it for you if you want.
There you go. There you go.
All right. So, we're
You
here to talk about what? You have something?
you want to play the trailer for what we're about to cover, even though there's been a
Absolutely.
picture
Yeah.
next to you the whole time?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Black Christmas. If this movie doesn't make your skin crawl, it's on too tight.
Rated R.
All right, so that is Black Christmas from 1974.
So
Oh,
I know
boy.
this was a very slow burn.
Yes.
I know you aren't a fan of it.
I'm not going to say I hated it because the ending kind of brought it back together. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to say made me go, yes, but it didn't feel like I wasted 2 hours.
Yeah. And you know what? This is the first time I've seen it in its entirety, and I don't know how many years. Is it in my top 10 of like horror movies? No.
Nah.
But it has a precedent of creating a slasher genre. Now there have been a few films before it that you could argue, you know, created it. One of the ones that come off the top of my head is Psycho.
Yeah.
It wasn't really a slasher per se, but if you gave me an option of which movie to watch, I would pick Psycho.
Yeah.
So another reason I kind of enjoyed it is because Bob Clark directed it, and if you don't really know the name, 10 years later he would release A Christmas Story, which has gone on to be a family favorite of probably around the world. So
I know it starts off my Christmas Eve every year.
Yep, I'm working Christmas Eve, but I'll have it on my monitor at my workstation. So just playing. Like last night, I mean, I've been having like AMC on my monitor, and last night it was Well, of course, National Lampoon's they played, and I think followed by that was Four Christmases. And I liked the movie, the one with Vince Vaughn and Reese Witherspoon.
Mhm.
My favorite part is when they go visit his family, John Favreau and Tim McGraw, who are the MMA fighters.
Yeah.
You know, the rednecks. But yeah, so let's get into Black Christmas. Now, this is a cult classic. As I said, it's not in my top 10, probably because of the very, very slow pace. What I consider it more of a thriller or a psychological thriller than a horror.
Yeah.
Very little gore, which we'll talk about that. So Black Christmas was actually originally titled Silent Night, Evil Night in the United States. And if you hear something in the background, that's Dutch getting in the ship.
And a funny
So-
story about that, when I was looking for the trailer, two of them did say Silent Night, Deadly Night instead of Black Christmas.
Oh, really? Oh, wow! Look at that. I have to look for those trailers and see how they compare to like the original trailer.
Oh, it's the same trailer. It just says
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Silent Night, Deadly Night instead of Black Christmas. I'm like,
Okay.
that's going to confuse people. Let me find another
Right.
one.
Yeah. So as I had stated, it was a slasher film produced and directed by Bob Clark, written by A. Roy Moore. It stars Olivia Hussey, Keir Duella, Margaret Kidder, Andrea Martin, Lynn Griffin, and John Saxon. The story follows a group of sorority sisters who receive threatening phone calls and are eventually stalked and murdered by a deranged killer during the Christmas season. Inspired by the urban legend of Babysitter and the Man Upstairs and a series of murders that took place in the Westmount neighborhood of Montreal, Quebec, Moore wrote the screenplay under the title Stop Me. The filmmakers made numerous alterations to the script, primarily the shifting to a university setting with young adult characters. It was shot in Toronto in 1974 on an estimated budget of $620,000 and was distributed by Warner Brothers in North America.
Did they give that all to John Saxon? Like, I don't understand what the hell they spent
Probably
that money
John
on.
Saxon, Margaret Kidder, and Olivia Hussey.
Yeah,
you know?
probably.
And even though like Margaret Kidder really didn't have a big role in it, and this is 5 years before Amityville Horror, and Margaret Kidder looked like a hard 30 in its
Oh
film.
yeah, like she's
she-
already been on the dab for.
She's sipping the sauce for a while. I mean, she didn't look like a college student.
No.
All the girls except for her looked like they were in college.
Yeah, they all pulled it
So,
off.
Yeah. Upon its release, Black Christmas received mixed reviews, but has since received critical reappraisal, with film historians noting it for being one of the earliest slasher films. It is also praised for its influence on John Carpenter's Halloween. Aside from its earning a cult following since the release, a novelization written by Lee Hayes was published in 1976. It is the first film in the Black Christmas series, being followed by two remakes in 2006 and 2019. And I did recently just watch the 2006 one, so I'll touch base on that. I have watched the 2019 one, and that one closely resembles the original than the first remake. The film has since received retroactive recognition and has been regarded as one of the greatest horror films ever made. So Black Christmas was initially developed by Canadian screenwriter Roy Moore, who wrote the screenplay under the title Stop Me. Inspirations, like I said, came from the urban legend known as The Babysitter and The Man Upstairs, which had become widespread during the 1970s. Moore also claimed to have been inspired by a series of murders that occurred during the holiday season in the Westmount area of Montreal. As noted in an article for The Telegraph, the murders, which occurred in 1943, were perpetrated by a 14-year-old boy who bludgeoned several of his family members to death. Film producers Harvey Sherman and Richard Shoughton had Timothy Bond rewrite the script to give it a university setting. Clark, who had felt the original script was too much of a straightforward slasher film, made several alterations in dialogue and also incorporated humorous elements into the film, particularly the drunkenness of Barb and Mrs. Mack, who Clark based on his aunt. Clark felt that college and high school students had not been depicted with any sense of reality in American film, and that he intended to capture the astuteness of the young adults. College students, even in 1974, are astute people. They're not fools. It's not all bikinis, beach blankets, and bingo. Olivia Hussey, who had previously garnered international fame for her role as Juliet in Franco Zeffirelli's Romeo and Juliet, signed on to appear in the film after being told by a psychic that she would make a film in Canada that would earn a great deal of money. Clark sought Keir Duella to play the role of Peter based on his performance as Dave Bowman in 2001's The Space Odyssey. The role of Mrs. Mack was offered to Bette Davis, who declined the part. I think she would have helped the movie if she stayed in it,
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Margaret Kidder was cast in the role of Barb and said she had been attracted to the character because she was wild and out of control and not a conventional leading part. For the role of Claire Harrison, whose murder jumpstarts the film's plot, Toronto native Lynn Griffin was cast after her mother, who was also her casting agent at the time, got her an audition. Griffin would later on to go star in Curtains and in the acclaimed television series Wind at My Back. Gilda Radner was offered the role of Phyllis Carlson. She accepted the part but dropped out 1 month before filming began, owing to Saturday Night Live commitments, and was replaced by Andrea Martin. The role of Lieutenant Fuller was originally given to Edmund O'Brien. Upon his arrival to the set, however, the producers realized he would be unable to fill the duties required of the part due to his failing health. John Saxon, who had read the script prior, was called by the producers who offered him the role. He accepted and had to arrive in Toronto from New York City within 2 days to begin shooting. For the role of the film's antagonist, Italian-Canadian actor Nick Mancuso was cast as one of the main voices in the phone call sequence. When auditioning for the role, director Clark had Mancuso sit in a chair facing away from him so as not to see the actor's face. Clark then had Mancuso experiment with different voices in order to come up with one that was right for the character, with Clark later offering him the part. Black Christmas was shot on location in Toronto in the winter of 73 and 74. The house featured in film had been discovered by Clark while scouting for locations, and its owners agreed to lease the home for the production. Additional photography was completed on the University of Toronto campus. According to John Saxon, Clark had meticulously drawn out storyboards with key shots, which he brought to the film set each day. I could understand exactly what I thought he needed and the scene needed. Scenes in the film providing POV shot of Billy scaling the house was accomplished through the use of a rig designed by camera operator Bert Dunk, who was attached to Dunk's head as he climbed up the side of the house. Griffin's death scene, which was shot with a handheld camera in a real closet, was accomplished in only a couple of takes. According to Griffin, her character's surprise as the killer lunges from the closet was genuine, as the actress later recalled. It was a total shock because I didn't really know when to expect him to jump out. Shots of Claire's corpse in the rocking chair required the actress to wear an actual plastic bag over her head for extended periods of time. Griffin would also state that these scenes came relatively easy for her. I was actually, and still am, a fairly good swimmer, so I could hold my breath for a long time. And I could also keep my eyes open for a long time without blinking. Margaret Kidder remembers shooting the film as being fun. I really bonded with Andrea Martin, filming in Toronto and Ontario. Olivia Hussey was a bit of an odd one. She was obsessed with the idea of falling in love with Paul McCartney through her psychic. We were a little hard on her for things like that. See, and I always had a thing for Olivia, like when I first saw her in Romeo and Juliet. And then I didn't see her again until she was Norman Bates' mother in Psycho 4. And she's had some other things, but she was just so beautiful. And I always wanted her to be a Bond girl. Like she would have been a perfect Bond girl in the 70s. Yeah. So, all right. So, post-production, the composer of the film score, Carl Zitter, stated in an interview that he created the film's mysterious music by tying forks, combs, and knives onto the strings of the piano to warp the sound of the keys. Zitter also stated that he would distort the sound further by recording its sound onto an audio tape and make the sound slower. The audio for the disturbing phone calls was performed by multiple actors, including Mancuso and director Bob Clark. Mancuso stated in an interview that he stood on his head during the recording sessions to compress his thorax and make his voice sound more demented. Mancuso spent only 3 days recording dialogue for the character, later recalling the experience as being very avant-garde, with Clark encouraging him to improvise with the character's voice. I'm surprised, like, he doesn't go to the conventions like the guy that does like the Ghostface
Rodney
voice.
Jackson.
Yeah, and like do voicemails. So capitalize on this, man. During preparation in 1975 for the film's American release, Warner Brothers studio executives asked Clark to change the concluding scene to show Claire's boyfriend, Chris, appear in front of Jess and say, "Agnes, don't tell them what we did," before killing her. However, Clark insisted on keeping the ending ambiguous. The original title of the film was initially planned to be Stop Me. Clark has stated in an interview that he came up with the film's official title, saying that he enjoyed the irony of a dark event occurring during a festive holiday. According to Clark as well, Warner Brothers changed the title to Silent Night, Evil Night for the United States theatrical release. So it was distributed in Canada by Ambassador Film Distributors and released in Toronto on October 11th, 1974. In the United States, Warner Brothers released the film in tandem with the Christmas season on December 20th, 1974. They should have released it in November. That's too close to Christmas, you know? So for the American release, Warner Brothers initially changed the title to Silent Night, Evil Night, worried that the original title would mislead audiences into believing the film was a blaxploitation movie. They retracted the title after the initial release, restoring it to Black Christmas for subsequent screenings. The film later screened on October 20th, 1975 in New York City and Chicago, as well as 19 theaters in Los Angeles, where it generated considerable ticket sales. This prompted Warner Brothers to expand the release to a total of 70 theaters nationwide in time for Halloween, but the film only generated a daily average of $700 per theater per day, after which Warner Brothers withdrew the film from circulation in December. The film had previously screened under the alternative title Silent Night, Evil Night in Virginia on July 14th, 1975. The film was the third highest grossing Canadian film of all time in Canada with a gross of $2 million. And these movies we'd never heard of, so I'm not even going to tell them what they were. Overall, Black Christmas grossed over $4.53 million internationally. So
A win.
it made 620. So I think they won. So this is why I miss about growing up in the era when you would have movie premieres on network television. The film, under the title Stranger in the House, was set to make its network television premiere on Saturday night, January 28th, 1978, on NBC's weekly Saturday Night at the Movies. 2 weeks prior to his premiere, the Chi Omega sorority house on the campus of Florida State University in Tallahassee was the scene of a double murder in which two Chi Omega sisters asleep in their beds were bludgeoned to death. The killer then went to a nearby room in a sorority house and violently attacked two more sleeping co-eds who survived. The killer was later identified as Ted Bundy, who was executed for this and other homicides on January 24th, 1989. A few days before the film was set to premiere on network television, Florida's then governor Ruben Askew contacted NBC president Robert Mulholland to request the movie not to be shown due to its all too similar theme as the murders of the sorority sisters by an unknown madman at the sorority house. On Tuesday, January 24th, NBC gave several of its affiliates in Florida, Georgia, and Alabama the option of showing an alternate film, Doc Savage, The Man of Bronze, in place of Stranger in the House. The report revealed that the network said in a statement issued yesterday in New York City that it was responding to concern voiced by the affiliates because of the murder of the two co-heads. An unseen man climbs the exterior of sorority house where a Christmas party is being held and enters the attic. The house phone rings. Okay, so now we're going to the plot. I forgot to put the plot. So, all right. So we're getting to the movie. We kind of have what would become like a Michael Myers point of view. We have someone scaling the house of the sorority house where we're having a Christmas party, and he enters the attic. The house phone rings, and Jess Bradford answers to discover it's an obscene phone call from a person who is called before known as the Moaner. Jess calls the other sorority girls, and they listen as the caller rants, moans, and screams in strange voices. And I have to admit, those voices were creepy.
Yeah, especially when he started yelling the "See you next Tuesday." I was just like, "Holy shit!" I wasn't expecting that at a 74.
Right. Yeah, Bob Clark, you surprised me. You have this utter dialogue that I would never say to a woman, but then 10 years later, you just have a warm, fuzzy Christmas movie.
I know, that makes everyone hot cocoa inside.
Yeah. So the girls were initially startled by the caller, but Barb, an inebriated student, insults the caller, that's Margaret Kidder. After a moment of bickering, the caller threatens to kill them in a sudden tone. A younger student, Claire Harrison, suggests that the caller could be a rapist before returning to her bedroom to pack her suitcase. Right when she leaves, Miss McHenry, the house mother, arrives and is immediately given a negligee by the girls. That wasn't a negligee, that was a moo-moo. I was like, this is not a negligee. They gave her a moo-moo.
Yeah, agreed.
As Claire packs her things upstairs, she fails to notice the intruder hiding behind a plastic dress bag. I failed to notice that too. I wasn't expecting that because it's been so long. Claire eventually hears a cat meowing from the closet and slowly approaches it, only to be suffocated with a plastic dress bag. And now, when he, after he killed her, that was a really cool shot of her, like in the window within the rocker, like which set up like the poster for the film. As the party wraps up, the killer carries Claire's body into the attic and places her into a rocking chair by the attic window. But here's the thing. That house must be so big that you don't hear like any rumblings up in the attic.
Oh, you're
you
gonna
know?
hear it because I could hear everything in my old house.
Yeah. The following morning, Claire's father arrives to take her home for Christmas break, but she fails to show up. Mrs. McHenry assumes Claire went to the fraternity house for a party and helps Mr. Harrison look for her. Later that day, Jess goes to the conservatory to meet her boyfriend, Peter, and explains to him that she is pregnant and planning to get an abortion, which, again, movies didn't talk about this, to my knowledge, in like the early 70s,
Yeah.
So, this makes him upset, and he forces her to continue this discussion later that night. In town, Mr. Harrison, Barb, and Phil attempt to report Claire as missing to Sergeant Nash, who doesn't take them seriously until Chris Hayden, Claire's boyfriend, barges in angrily later that night and demands something be done in Claire's disappearance. And you know why I would take him serious? He came in with that motherfucking Huggy Bear fur coat.
Pip coat.
I was like, damn, that is like, what college student is wearing that? I was like, wow, that's a fur coat if I ever saw one. At the police station, they learned that a high school girl, Janice Quaff, has also vanished. After putting a drunken Barb to bed, Mr. Harrison, Chris, Jess, and Phil help search for the missing girl. Meanwhile, the house mother, Mrs. McHenry, discovers Claire's body, and the killer throws a crane hook into her face, hanging and killing her. In the park, the missing girl's disfigured body is found by the police. Jess answers another obscene phone call and decides to file a report with the police, only for Peter to surprise her. He attempts to persuade her into marriage, but she refuses and reaffirms her decision to have an abortion. Peter leaves angrily while Lieutenant Fuller arrives with the telephone lineman to bug the phone. Jess stays up to pick up the phone, but leaves when she hears Barb having an asthma attack. Barb claims that she had a nightmare where she saw a man walk into her room. After calming her down, Jess hears Christmas carolers at the front door and leaves Barb unattended. The killer walks into Barb's room and stabs her to death with a glass unicorn figurine. Her cries for help are drowned out by the caroling. Jess experiences another unnerving phone call in which the caller restates her argument with Peter. Lieutenant Fuller calls her to say the attempt to trace the call failed and theorizes that Peter could be responsible, but Jess doubts this. And man, imagine being that lineman who's got to like walk all around that.
I know.
I was like, I want to know how this works and like, how do you find out where the call is coming from? Like,
right, it was just like little pistons going up and down. I'm like, how do you know which one's which? There's no fucking tag.
Yeah. After Jess and Phil are spooked by a couple of search party members, they set out and lock up every door and window in the house. Phil sees Barb's door closed and goes to check in on her, only for her to be killed off screen. Jess gets one final phone call in which the killer alludes to some sort of transgression between two children named Agnes and Billy. The call was long enough to be traced, and Sergeant Nash instructs Jess to leave the house immediately as the calls are coming from within the house. Concerned for Barb and Phil, she ventures upstairs where she discovers their bodies. Jess sees the killer's eye through a crack as he slowly begins to close it on her. She slams the door in his face and runs downstairs. Jess flees into the basement and locks it shut as the killer bangs on it. She then hears footsteps walking away and presumably the front door opening. However, when she walks downstairs into the basement, Jess sees Peter peek through a window and call her name. He breaks the window and enters the basement as he calls her name wordly. Once Peter finds her, he begins to approach her as she backs away and clutches the fire poker. The police arrive and hear Jess screaming. They discover her barely conscious in the basement with Peter's bloody body next to her. Believing that Peter was the killer, they put Jess to bed, sedated in her room, and leave her alone in the house with the cops standing outside. All right, this part had me cracking up. Now, I know they wouldn't do that in today's day and age, and I highly doubt they would do that 50 years ago. You've been attacked by someone and you're not going to take her to the hospital. You're just going to sedate her, and there's still bodies up in the attic. Like, come on, John Saxon. This is why you got killed by Freddy in part 3.
Yeah,
like poor policeman Mark.
Poor damn John Saxon.
Mm-hmm.
But he made the movie more watchable. Maybe because I'm a Nightmare fanboy.
He did. He added some credibility. And I want to say this was not too long after Enter the Dragon, because wasn't he the villain in Enter the Dragon?
He was.
Yeah. The killer, okay, so after this happens, the killer's voice is heard from the attic, implying that he's still alive. The still undiscovered bodies of Claire and Mrs. McHenry are seen through the attic before the house telephone begins to ring, leaving Jess's fate ambiguous. So, legacy. So, as I stated earlier, this has gained a massive cult following and is notable for being one of the earliest slasher films. It went on to inspire other slasher films, the biggest one of them all being Halloween. You can see Carpenter followed suit with like the point of view shots and
Yeah, I'm
whatnot.
really glad he used the mask and not that weird bird eye lens that really fucked with my eyes when you
Yeah,
were the
yeah,
killer.
yeah. So it's on multiple lists of like various polls for being number 87 on Bravo's 100 scariest movie moments, 67 on IndieWire's 100 best horror movies of all time. It's in an article, this the 75 best horror movies of all time. It ranked at 48. Esquire placed it at 23 out of 50. In 2017, Complex magazine named Black Christmas the second best slasher of all time. I would,
Let's
I
calm
would,
down.
yeah, I would want to see what other movies it was up against. Um, and then Jess Bradford was number one in a list of 20 best final girls. I don't
Nah,
agree
nah,
with
there's
that.
way too many.
Yeah. Um, Bob Clark maintained he did not intend for the film to have a political leanings. Critics have noted Black Christmas in nothing less a feminist film for its treatment of female characters, particularly Jess having agency and making the choice to have an abortion, and its portrayal of casual misogyny as when the police initially failed to take the sorority's concerns about the phone calls and Claire's absence seriously.
All right, I'm glad you
Uh,
brought this up because this shit all the time, the commentary. Do you think Bob Clark really cared
hmm,
or was this just a critic making shit up like they always do? Because it drives me crazy with like, oh, the social commentary of this film was da da da
yeah,
da. No, it wasn't. I guarantee you
yeah,
it wasn't. The dude was hopped up on cocaine. Like they did the same thing about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
yeah,
They did the same thing about Freddy Krueger. No, dude had a dream, made a fucking movie. He wasn't worried about the client. Like, stop.
right,
It's like the critics say this shit to make them sound smarter. You're not. You're a fucking film critic. Let's calm down. The
right,
social commentary doesn't matter. Yeah, now
yeah.
we're getting woke movies, but in the '80s, trust me, them having the abortion, it wasn't about politics.
No, no. It was that was what was I don't want to say big in that time, but it was,
Mhm.
So it was just talking about something that was going on in society and it wasn't, promoting it or demoting it.
And
It was
they're feminist. No,
no.
she's just a woman
Yeah.
controlling her
Yeah,
life. That's not a
exactly.
feminist. That's a
Yeah.
woman on top of her shit.
Right, right. And then Lo, this is a fun little tidbit. This is Steve Martin's favorite movie. He's seen it at the time 27 times when he ran into Olivia Hussey. So novelization. So there was a book written in 1976 and it roughly follows the same plot but sticks with Roy Moore's original script. Because of this, the novel ends up fleshing out the characters more, adding scenes and lines of dialogue that were initially cut from the film's final script and giving the sorority a little bit more backstory. Excuse me, there was a documentary book called It's Me, Billy, Black Christmas Revisited, which talked about the original and the two remakes and has new interviews with the original cast members and more. So we did have two remakes. The first remake was directed by Glenn Morgan and was released on December 25th, 2006. It's very loosely based on the original film, containing more graphic content and a focus into the past of Billy, which I think if the which I liked. Now, I'm not saying I liked the reboot. I like the backstory of Billy. So basically, Billy was born with a bad case of jaundice. His dad loved him, his mother despised him. So, and she didn't understand why the dad just doted on him so much. So when Billy was probably about 10 on Christmas, um, his dad had a present for him in his bedroom. And when he's going to go get it, the mom's boyfriend comes over and kills the dad in the manner which how Billy killed the first characters, after he like hits him on the head, he puts a plastic bag on him. So he sees all this and he runs away up into the attic, and the mom locks him up in the attic.
Uh,
So now let's fast forward 10 years. She wants to have, she's trying to have sex with the boyfriend, but he's got whiskey dick. So she goes up into the attic, and Billy's probably about 18 at this time, rocking in his chair. She's drunk. You see just like clothes drop, and she's rocking the cradle. And thus, this is how Agnes is born. So not only is Agnes his sister, but also he's the father. So
uh,
yeah, so and he ends up killing the mom and the brother, or I'm sorry, the stepfather, but he's also assaulting Agnes because he despises her because Agnes got the love that he didn't. So you see him attacking her, and that's when the mom comes upon him, and he kills the mom and the stepmother or stepbrother, the stepfather, and then he's put in an institution. But they never tell you what really happened to Agnes. So it pretty much, and you hear about this all through flashbacks. So at the time, we have Lacey Chabert, who was like from Party of Five. You
yep,
have Michelle Trachtenberg
yep.
from
Euro trip.
Buffy and Eurotrip, and then oh gosh, Katie Cassidy, who, if you name sounds familiar, she was on the Arrow TV show.
Okay.
She was like the lead, and she's also the daughter of David Cassidy, if you didn't know that. So it was, it was okay. Diehard fans of the original did not like it.
A shocker.
Yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it, and Billy and Agnes were played by the same guy. So, and Agnes, when I don't mean to make fun of little kids, but they got a little girl that I don't know. I hope they put makeup on her to make her look ugly.
Oh,
So you ever seen One Crazy Summer with John Cusack?
long time ago.
Okay. Do you remember in the beginning when the girls are making fun of his sister to go, no, and someone says, if you keep making those faces, it's going to stay like that, and someone hit them on the back, and she looks like a pig face. That's what this freaking little girl looked like.
Oh wow.
And Agnes was looking pretty hard, well, because she was played by the guy.
Yeah.
But they did have the same kills. And the paper, the plastic bag, there was like a unicorn. I think my favorite kill was when the ice they did a nod to Bob Clark, and the house mother got her head impaled by an icicle.
Ah.
Yeah. So I like that little nod. They definitely didn't leave it up for like a follow-up because both Agnes and Billy were killed. Now the 2019 remake follows the original film more closely, and was just as slow paced as the original. So I really didn't watch it. It was more like room filter.
I gotcha. Yeah.
Now, I recently discovered a fan film called It's Me, Billy, a Black Christmas fan film. A short fan film funded through an Indigo campaign was released on YouTube and Vimeo with this title in May 2021. It is billed as an unofficial sequel to the original film and picks up the story 50 years later, following the granddaughter of Jess Bradford. The film was written, produced, and directed by Dave McRae and Bruce Dale, and acts as a concept for a feature film, as well as the first part of a two-part story. And you can find it on YouTube. It was nominated for a Best Cinematography in the Dramatic Short category. And I had to say, it was 42 minutes, but it flew by.
Ah.
Like, it was over before I even realized the 42 minutes. Beautifully shot for a fan film. I couldn't tell it was a fan film. The drone shots were really nice, going over the Canadian scenery. The acting was really good. They did leave it up for a sequel, and you did see an adult Billy still living in the attic. And then I don't want to give away, other stuff, but The Voice, I would say, was just as creepy
Oh,
as
cool.
the first one. So if you got 42 minutes to kill and you're a fan of Black Christmas, definitely give it a look on YouTube. So this film also inspired other seasonal horror films. Most notably, we have Halloween, Friday the 13th, Prom Night, Mother's Day, Graduation Day, My Bloody Valentine, Silent Night, Deadly Night, and April Fool's Day.
This
So
reminded me a lot of My Bloody Valentine.
yeah, yeah. Well,
It's
My Bloody
been
Valentine is Canadian too.
Oh yeah, that could be it.
Yeah.
It's been a long time since I saw it.
There is a fan film coming out called Valentine's Bluff.
Yep,
Um,
Nightmare
which
Christie's starring in that.
That's right. And my friend Corey Kaufman plays like her John or something.
Yeah,
And he's got a hat that says butt drugs.
yeah.
So
She
that's
talked
coming.
about that in our interview on
Oh, nice.
Haunts 365. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so that should be coming out in February. I'm a backer of that. My friend Chuck Ryan plays the miner, and I pledge like the Blu-ray, pin, posters, a t-shirt by I think it was either Fright Rags or Terror Threads. I got everything except for the Blu-ray, of course. That'll probably come out like I'll probably get it like February, March. So we talked about it being inspired by real life murders. The role of Peter was originally offered to Malcolm McDowell, but he turned it down, a decision he regrets to this day. And because he regrets it because of the mass filing its game. But you know what? He's got Clockwork Orange,
Yeah.
other films he's been in. So this, I mean, it's one thing if like you haven't made other content and you reflect.
Yeah.
But I
Clockwork
think
Orange kicks the shit out of this movie, so
oh,
you're
for
okay,
sure.
buddy.
Yeah, yeah. None of the actors portraying teenagers in the film were actually in their teens. In fact, the oldest actor portrayed college student was Cara Dua, who was 38 years old at the time. They got some 90210 syndrome going on here. Lynn Griffin and Olivia Hussey were the youngest, being 22 and 23, and I believe Margaret was 28. Billy's erratic phone calls made after each murder seems almost eerily similar to serial killer Paul Michael Stephanie's actions. Stephanie is known as the weepy voice killer, and the moniker was developed due to his habit of calling the police after committing his crimes to confess. His and Billy's ramblings are similar, as they were confusing and disorienting, which changes in the voice meaning that they could not be properly identified. However, unlike Billy, Stephanie was not vulgar in his calls and was confessing to his murders. And that's Black Christmas.
Black Christmas, everyone. Check it out just for the love of horror. I mean, I'm not mad I watched it. I don't know how I let you talk me into a fucking Christmas movie, but
Well,
we did.
Tis the season.
Uh-huh. This is the season that's over in fucking 9 goddamn days.
Yep. So what are you doing for Christmas? What's your normal traditions?
All right, so we're heading to her brother's house for Christmas Eve for the Italian Seven Fishes dinner. And then Christmas will be here.
Okay. And what are you making?
She wants to do a ham, so I guess we're doing boring ham.
Are you gonna like put it in your smoker?
Maybe.
Okay.
It's tough when it's cold out with that thing right now. I gotta
So
deep
aside
clean
from
it.
the holiday, you gotta appreciate the food though, right?
Nah, Thanksgiving's better.
Really?
Oh yeah. Without a doubt.
Come on. The Seven Fishes?
Yeah.
Are you not a seafood guy?
I'm a seafood guy, but I would do 7 different fishes.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah, it'll be all right. Eagles Dallas game on Christmas Eve.
Go Dallas.
Oh,
Woo.
fuck Dallas.
What's Eagles record? 11-1?
12-1 right now.
12-1.
About to be 13-1 on Sunday.
Who are they playing on Sunday?
The Bears.
The Bears.
The Bears.
And well, yeah, it'll be 13-1. And then I just, what kind of crack are they smoking? I mean, what is going on this season?
It's everything's clicking. They're gonna win the Super Bowl.
Oh, you think they're gonna go all the way to Super Bowl?
I can't see a team beating them. Any team in this league, I don't see them beating them
So
right now.
who would be their opponent?
In the Super Bowl, probably
Yeah.
either Buffalo or Kansas City. Bills
I
or
like
the
to see
Chiefs.
I like to see Buffalo. Kansas was in it a couple of years ago. So, but what about Tom Brady, man?
Fuck Tom Brady.
Yeah,
I,
he's getting bested by people below him.
you can't beat what he did, but he's still a little girl, and he'll
He
always be a
is.
little girl. And
Yeah.
there's been better quarterbacks. Sorry, I don't care about Super Bowl wins because
No,
there's too much to play for a Super Bowl win.
it's quality over quantity.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
He's also
Yeah.
lost almost as much as he's won the Super Bowl. Nobody brings
Right.
that up.
Nah.
He's
no,
like
no one
7
brings
and
it up.
5 in the Super Bowl. You still lost
Oh,
5 fucking Super Bowls.
right. Yeah. Trying to think if I saw any hard news recently. I should write this stuff
I
down.
know. We should just really send it back and forth to each other. So we
Yeah.
have it on the
Yeah.
phone.
Yeah.
We'll
Yeah.
figure that out though. I did listen to True Crime Garage
Okay.
about the Idaho killings.
Hmm.
Have you heard about that yet?
No. Is this like a newer story?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, very new.
Okay.
4 young ladies were killed in a sorority. I don't know.
Oh, well, I think 3 girls, 1 guy.
Yes, 3 girls,
And
1 guy.
2 survived.
Yes.
Which people are questioning, how do they survive?
Well, it depends on the layout of the house. Because,
Well, they were on the first floor, I think. So,
but if it's a split level, the bottom floor could look like a basement.
true.
So I don't know.
And it's in a small town too, I believe.
And it's ringing serial killer vibes to me.
Yeah. I remember listening to, I guess it was the DA or what when it first happened,
Yeah,
and he was tearing up on that like that press conference.
yeah. They know it's not a military knife, but a well-made knife. Because I guess the victims had a hilt mark from where the
But
knife.
again, 4 people in one house. How do you not hear screams?
I don't know, man. So there could
Yeah.
be multiple, or hey, Bundy did it,
True.
and that's what like if it's a crime of passion, you're just gonna kill the 2 involved. You're not gonna
Yeah.
kill the other 2. But
Yeah.
then there was other people survive. It's so weird. It's a
Yeah.
different kind of thing. And I'll have to watch the story. Maybe I have to do an episode on it when they start wrapping some stuff up. If they can wrap some stuff up.
Unfortunately, it could be like could take a couple of years. Like, look at the Delphi murders.
Yeah. And
definitely
the fucking media is on them. Like, well, where's our information? No, you get nothing. Because
Yeah.
the problem with it is people get too much information, then they could fuck with it.
Yeah.
Like, they're
Yeah.
going to keep stuff to the chest, so if they do find this killer, he's going to know stuff that no one else knows.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
So, well, it's an interesting story.
Yeah. Definitely. Want to keep up on it.
Oh, yeah, I'll keep watching it.
All right, you do you. I was actually thinking of some stories we could talk about in the future, and our plans, if we can make this happen in August, where we might go visit Irene's family who live in Tennessee. They're not too far from Nashville. You know what's not too far from Nashville? The Bell Witch Cave.
That's correct.
Man. So would you stop?
That puppy's excited.
Yeah.
He wants to go back out in the snow.
Oh God, yeah. Still a little bitch though. So, all right, Jared. Well, this has been a great episode.
Oh yeah, we learned a lot about Black Christmas.
Yep. Now you have to get me back one day with a bad movie.
Oh, I got plenty.
there
There are plenty out there.
are. We could watch Silent Night, Deadly Night too. Wednesday.
I don't know if we're doing that, bro.
No, I would not. I would not put myself or you through that. I tried watching it again a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I can't do it.
We do have conspiracy news.
Oh, what's that?
11,000 unredacted files from the Kennedy assassination were released by the National Archives.
Now, is it good information now, or
Everything. I tried. I'm gonna download them all.
God
I
damn.
couldn't read it on my phone,
Yeah.
but a lot of it had to do with Oswald in Russia.
But what? Oh, yeah. But do we already know this stuff?
Probably.
No.
They're not going
Yeah.
to release the good shit. They never will.
And I know it's so like, what one movie I really enjoyed about the assassination was Oliver Stone's JFK.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Garrison. Oh, it's a really good story. It's wrong in some places,
Yeah.
but I just listened to like the entire coverage from last podcast on the left about the JFK assassination, and it made me believe even more that Oswald had nothing to do with it.
Oh, he was,
because he's a career fuck up.
He is.
Like,
I always felt he was a patsy.
Yeah, without a doubt. They went over his entire life. You know how deep those guys get.
Yeah.
They went over his entire life, and I'm like, this makes me feel even less like this guy could pull this shit off.
No, not at all. I always believed it was it was probably the CIA working with the mob,
See, I'm leaning towards 100% mob.
Okay.
Because
you think they could pull all that off, though?
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt.
Without any help?
Yeah.
But come on, listen to what's his name? Mr. X. Why did he have a roofless limousine?
There's been several documentations saying that JFK himself asked for that. And he was the one, because if the cab is unprotected with the roof, he would have Secret Service on both bumpers and on the footboards going down the doors to block people of him.
Okay.
But he was really going for the Texas vote to get reelected. He told them he wanted them 10 yards back.
Gotcha.
So that was all on Kennedy.
Do you subscribe to the magic bullet theory?
No. Doesn't make sense.
We got some, like, it reminds me of like the movie Wanted, where they make the bullet curve.
Right. But like, even the guys on the last podcast on the left are like, Kennedy was hitting his back, and then the other guy was hitting his throat.
Yeah. Well, and how they say, like, when his head hit back, they said the bullet came from behind him. I was like, no way. No way.
It's the only serious threat to Kennedy was the mob after fucking up Bay of Pigs.
Yeah. And Marilyn Monroe.
Well, yeah, but they wanted.
Man, did you watch that documentary about her?
Yes.
Man, they tag teamed her, man. I did not know that.
It was creepy. Very creepy.
Like that. Yeah.
Very creepy.
So that made me feel even more confident that Robert Kennedy had her killed.
Yeah, basically it said that the mob helped get him get elected, especially through the Chicago vote.
Well, yeah, because Joe Kennedy helped.
Yeah.
So,
and then Robert Kennedy made it his mission to try and end the mob.
Yeah.
So they were pissed. And honestly, they weren't even mad about Robert. They wanted Cuba. They wanted Cuba bad.
Yeah.
And when Kennedy couldn't fix it, a year later, it all adds up too much. Then a fuck up wannabe Russian federalist who has shut up. Lee Harvey, I guarantee you, he could not make those shots.
No,
I would bet a full paycheck.
Even with that rifle, I felt like he couldn't do it.
That rifle can do it, but you got to have the skill.
And he didn't have the skill as a marksman.
He was a fuck up.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and one thing, who was speaking of like assassins, Sirhan Sirhan was released from prison like last year.
Who did he kill?
Robert Kennedy.
Oh yeah.
I don't believe in that. In the kitchen, I don't believe in that at all. Like, if you assassinate a president, you should die. Of course, California death penalty, but why is he still in? Why did he get released? But
but what was Robert Kennedy at that time, though?
Well, he was running for president.
Oh, was he?
He was the attorney general, I believe. So.
No, because he got cut after Kennedy got killed.
So maybe he was a senator, but I know he was running for president. But like, look at Mark David Chapman. He's still in prison for trying to assassinate Reagan.
Yeah.
But he's making music, though. He's got albums out.
Oh, this fucking world, dude.
I know. You and I, we get busted for a traffic ticket, and we're like serving some serious time.
Yep. and these guys are often political leaders.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll figure out our next show. We'll see. We got the holidays coming up.
Yeah. So I think 2023 would be a big year for us as far as getting more fan base and stuff out there.
Because we'll be able to hit some cons, we'll be able to hit some shows, we'll be able to get out and do some actual videography soon.
Yeah, definitely. And you'll just have to, like, when it starts getting warmer and we can do that, you said let me know weeks in advance so I can try to request off for it, because I had to, Wednesday was our first come first serve, where we had any dates we think we need off, we had to put them in. So I right now I just put in for Saturdays for a couple conventions, and then I took a lot of days off in October. So yeah, so the weekend of Halloween, whatever you and Terry are going, if it's somewhere local to us or somewhere near, I'm off that weekend of Halloween. So
cool.
Yeah,
we'll figure something out.
Yeah, definitely. All right, my friend.
All right, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, tell a friend, tell your mom, tell your dad, tell your cousin. This has been the Horror Shed Podcast, Black Christmas. We will see you next week.
Halloween Haunts 365 Productions.